Okay, in this class we will learn characteristics of collection framework. Characteristics of characteristics of collection framework. Okay. Number one is version. Number one is version. Different classes were introduced in different version. Like if we say array list, linked list, stack, vector and stack. Array list, which is introduced in Java API version 1.2, linked list, which is introduced in Java version 1.2, vector is introduced in Java version 1.0, and stack is introduced in version 1.0. Okay. So here we see different classes are introduced in different version. Okay. Number two is collection classes stores heterogeneous data, fine, except two classes, all collection classes stores heterogeneous data except two classes. Number one is tree set, number two is tree map. Okay. Number three is insertion of null value. Insertion of null is accepted but stored by all collection classes. Okay. Number four is duplicates objects. Some classes are able to store duplicate objects, whereas some classes don't. List, the main difference between list interface and set interface is list interface and the implemented classes like array list, linked list and vector, stack, all can store duplicates object, but in set duplicate objects are not allowed. allowed. Okay. Number 5 is number 5 is synchronized and non-synchronized. 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 Okay. Number 5 is synchronized and non-synchronized. Synchronized means thread safe. Okay. Thread safe means a object can only access by one thread at a time, and non-synchronized means multiple threads can access the objects simultaneously. Okay. Java, the classes introduced in Java version 1.0 that are all classes that introduced in 1.0 version, all are synchronized, but from Java 1.1 to 1.9, the classes introduced in collection all are non-synchronized. Okay, all are non-synchronized. All are non-synchronized. Number 6 is insertion order. Number 6 is insertion order. Number 6 is insertion order. Insertion order. Two types of insertion order, like preserved, and non-preserved. Okay, preserved and non-preserved. Preserved means if the insertion is like E1, E2, E3, and the output is E1, E2, E3. That types of characteristics is called preserved. And non-preserved means if we insert objects like E1, E2, E3, and their output is not preserved, means like it can output like E2, E1, E3, or E3, E1, E2, etc. These types of characteristics is called non-preserved. Okay. Number 7. Number 7 is underlying data structure. Underlying data structure. Underlying data structure. Okay. Actually, in ArrayList, the underlying data structure is resizable array. Okay, underlying data structure is resizable array. For linked list, the underlying data structure is the underlying data structure is double linked list. Double linked list. Linked list. Okay. Double linked list. And the last characteristics of collection is to read the data to read the data from collection classes. We use we use we use we use we use cursor, and different classes allow different cursors. Like if we talk about ArrayList, it will accept only one cursor. We will discuss it later. Okay. Linked list, which is allowed two types of cursors, and vector, which is allowed three cursors. We already know where the three cursors are. For reminder, number one is enumeration cursor. Number two is iterator. Number three is list iterator. Okay. Now we will discuss about the characteristics of ArrayList. We will discuss the characteristics of ArrayList. Okay. Characteristics of ArrayList. In which version ArrayList is introduced? Number one is 1.2 version. In 1.2 version, ArrayList is introduced. Okay. Number two is array can store heterogeneous data and also homogeneous data. We know already that what is heterogeneous data. We already know. For reminder, if we want to store multiple types of data, like student types data, this object is student types, this object is customer types, this object is like employee types, this object is integer types, all multiple types data can be stored in a single entity in a list. So this kind of characteristics is called heterogeneous. And what is homogeneous? Homogeneous means if we store data, say homogeneous means if we store multiple objects, all objects should be same type. Like if we store student, all list will store student. Student types data, not customer, not employee, not integer. Okay. These types of characteristics is called homogeneous. It is homo and it is hetero. Okay. Number three is null insertion allowed. Number 3 is null insertion is allowed. Number 3 is null insertion is allowed. Null insertion is allowed. Null insertion is allowed. Okay. Number 4 is duplicates allowed. Number 4 is duplicates also allowed. Number 4 is duplicates also allowed. Okay. Duplicates allowed. We already know that duplicates are not allowed by set interface, and they are implemented all classes, and duplicates are allowed by list interface, and they're implemented all classes like ArrayList, like linked list, and so on. Right. Okay. Next, number 6 is ArrayList is non-synchronized. We already know that API version 1.0 only. API version 1.0, those classes were introduced in 1.0 version that are all synchronized, and from version 1.1 to 1.9, all versions classes are into except synchronized, and synchronized. Okay. Then resizable array, it is resizable means if we want to store value, in runtime, it can automatically allocate the space for that value. Okay. And that's it. This is all characteristics of ArrayList. Okay. Now from next lecture we will do so many exercise on ArrayList implementation, but what in this class I just want to introduce all methods that we will discuss in above lecture for ArrayList. Okay. There are 12 methods in ArrayList that we will discuss here. Okay. Number 1 is size. This method will return the size of an ArrayList. Like if we store if we store a value here like 10, 20, 30, 50, 70, here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means the size of this ArrayList is 5. Size of this ArrayList is 5. So number 1 is size. Number 2 is empty. Empty. That means this method will return a Boolean value, true or false. If we see this list this list is not empty. This list is not empty, so it will return false. So it will return false. Okay. And number 3, this function is clear. This function is clear. The activity of this function is it will clear all the value of an array list. Okay, it will clear all the value of an array list. Number 4 is get method, which parameter is a index. Okay, if we want to access, like for example, if we want to access this array, how we can get the elements by using get method, like for int i0, i less than a dot size I plus plus, then sysout system.out.println sysout get sysout a dot get I, sorry, sysout, okay, sysout a dot get I. That means it will return all value of this array list. Okay, number 4. And number 5. Okay, here I am using only syntax for understanding it clearly. When we will do practical, then we will correctly use the syntax, okay, and all functionality. Then 5, this method is use add. This method add, there is 4 methods here, like add 6, add index, add index 7 is add all collection add all collection, all types extends integer, or it can be anything, integer or anything, extends integer c. Okay, this means, what does it mean? If actually in collection homogeneous is recommended. Homogeneous data is recommended. If we say declare like ArrayList a equal new ArrayList, what does it mean? This kind of declaration means this variable can store any types of data. Means it is heterogeneous. Okay, but if we want to store only integer types or only float types, then we have to declare it like ArrayList integer a equal new array list, okay. So this kind of declaration is used when we want to store homogeneous data. Fine. Here you look, collection is a interface. Collection is a interface. Here this symbol means all kind of classes, okay. Extend means হচ্ছে integer. Integer means these method only accept integer types array list, right? So here another method is like 8 add all here index and this declaration, okay. This declaration will be replaced here. For a spacing purpose, I'm not sure, just writing it. Fine. Okay. Number 9. Number 9 is remove. Number 9 is remove method. Remove. Okay. Remove. Sorry. Mistake. Remove. I have to pass the index variable. The index. Okay. So this method will remove individual objects from an entity. We previous discussion we said collection. What is collection? Collection is a say here object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4, object 5, object 6. Okay. So here we are storing individual objects, where we are storing individual objects in a single entity. So this kind of this is from individual objects. Okay. This means object 1, object 2, object 3, dot object n. Okay. If we want to remove these objects from this entity, then we have to pass the index. So we can say these indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When we pass it like 1, then this object will be removed from the list, and entire objects will shift. Okay. And another method is like here we will pass a value, is data. Okay. And this is 10. This is 10. Okay. Number 11. Number 11 is for number 11 is for replacing the data. Replacing the data. Set method is used for replacing the data. Here we have to pass index and the data and the data. Okay, and number 12 is contains. Number 12 is contains. Number 12 is contains data. If we want to check that a specific object contains a specific value, then we can use these methods. So here is the list of 12 methods that are used in ArrayList, and we will see all of the method, and we will use all of these method practically from next lecture.